Former President Donald Trump set to hit the campaign trail in two battleground states this week. He will be in North Carolina tomorrow, then later in the week in Pennsylvania. His campaign announced those appearances in recent days after facing some questions from some Republicans about his schedule. People want to see him in the battleground states. We're told Trump previously said he would travel more after the Democratic National Convention. Olivia Rinaldi, our campaign reporter covering former President Trump, joins us now from Asheville, North Carolina. Olivia, what do you hear from the Trump campaign about this visit to North Carolina and Pennsylvania? Is it part of a ramping up of the schedule or not?
Yeah, Robert, it is part of a little bit of a ramping up of the schedule. All eyes will be on the Democratic National Convention next week, but you know Donald Trump, you've covered him. He wants to remain in the mix and in the headlines, so that's part of what this trip to Asheville is. And just to set the scene for you, what Asheville is like, I've seen a lot of Harris Wall signs so far in just the quick drive in from the airport here. It's kind of a liberal bastion in the middle of this western North Carolina area that typically votes red. We're about an hour from the border of Tennessee. So Trump is really coming out here, even though it is a liberal city and a county that has voted for a Democrat in every presidential election since 2008. Trump is really coming out here to shore up support of surrounding counties. You know, it is important to note that in 2020, even though Trump won North Carolina, of all the battleground states he won, it was the state with the slimmest margin. And Vice President Kamala Harris also knows this, and so she will be visiting the state as well on Friday in Raleigh and delivering a speech on economic policy.
Olivia, what else are you hearing from the Trump side?
Yeah, you know, they are going to ramp up a little bit. This weekend, he's going to Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. I believe I said that right. That's in the Scranton region, which is President Biden's backyard. That's where he grew up. But that's going to be his eighth visit to Pennsylvania in just this cycle. That's extremely important. That state is basically for all the marbles. That's 19 electoral votes right there, the most of any battleground state that's really on the map in this cycle. So Trump will be spending a lot of time there. We're also hearing that there could be a lot on the schedule for next week as a counter-programming for the Democratic National Convention. But this all comes as Vice President Kamala Harris is kind of hitting a stride. You know, she's having a lot of good headlines coming her way, you know, positive reception from voters in a lot of battleground states for the Harris Walls ticket. Trump is very aware of this. And so it's part of an effort to really just kind of reclaim his stance in this race, Robert.
Olivia Rinaldi, thank you. We appreciate it. Joining us now at the table, Ashley Etienne and Kevin Sheridan. Ashley served as communications director for Vice President Kamala Harris. Kevin is a former spokesman for the Republican National Committee. Good to have you both. Ashley, it is the Democratic National Committee.
Yay, exciting.
Having its convention, the DNC having its convention starting on Monday. What are you hearing from Vice President Harris's orbit about how they want this to play out? What's the big theme, the takeaway the Harris people want come, let's say, Thursday midnight next week?
I think they want for American voters to have a greater sense of Kamala Harris as a leader and why she's the right leader for this moment. So I can anticipate what they're going to do is really address what's, to some degree, has been her Achilles heel. It was contributed to her sort of dropping out of the Democratic primary race in 2020, and that is a lack of sort of a sense from the American people of who she is as a leader and why it is that, again, she's the right leader for this moment. So I think they're going to do a lot of storytelling about her. They're going to peel back a lot of the layers, really start from her, you know, do more biography, start from her beginnings and explain, again, what is her ethos? You know, I know her to be the type of leader that sees people because she grew up, you know, in a household with a single mom in a multicultural, multi-ethnic community with people up and down the economic scale. So she has a keen sense of what people are going through and how they're trying to overcome their circumstances and their hopes and dreams. So I think they're going to get into that. They're going to tell the story of Kamala Harris. So it's going to be interesting to see how they actually do that. Her successes, and again, why she's the right leader for this moment.
How are Republicans going to deal with the story of Vice President Harris being presented over the course of 4 days in Chicago? And she's, for now, such a fresh presence on the American political scene in the sense that so many voters have not fully engaged with her record, her persona for 3.5 years. Most vice presidents, as we all know, out of the headline. She's now in every headline, politically speaking. So how does that affect Republicans as they look at this convention?
Well, which Kamala are we going to get? She ran on one platform in 2020. She's obviously modified a lot of those positions this time. Republicans have had an opportunity in the last few weeks to define her. I don't know that they have done that yet. And
the answer's no.
Yeah. So they're going to have to continue to do that. The Trump Super PAC is coming out with a $100 million ad buy. Let's see how those ads look and what message they're going to pick to define her, because there's a lot of ways you could define her.
A quick follow-up on that. Where do you believe Republicans are going to shine that light? Is it on the border? Is it on the economy? Is it on another issue, cultural issues, social issues? You are a Republican strategist, a veteran one. You talk to a lot of Republican strategists. When they conclude on where to focus the advertising, the message, where do you believe they land?
Obviously, the border, her experience, her lack of a proven track record. So I don't know what their internal testing has shown in the last 3 weeks. We're now 3 weeks into it, and they've tried out a lot of lines. We'll see which one they think is going to stick, at least from the Super PAC side. Donald Trump needs to lock in, though, and make that case, the policy case against her relentlessly, and stay off of the other issues that he's been, going off on pretty regularly. And that's been his Achilles heel right now.
So let's say, we'll get to the personal attacks in a minute, but let's say the Republicans do focus on the border as their policy attack. Yeah. We've seen from her advertising so far, she's casting her record as one of a prosecutor from a border state, California. We've seen it in at least an ad or two. But what's the forceful response, if any, you expect from the Harris side when that barrage of tens of maybe even $100 million of advertising comes down on Vice President Harris this fall?
Well, Bob, what I've been really struck by is, the vice president's rally in Atlanta, for example. When she came on the stage, she talked about the fact that I know Donald Trump, I know his type, but immediately pivot to the border and then immediately pivot to inflation and the economy. I mean, the fact that she's aggressively leaning into these issues, Democrats typically shy away from these issues, which is why we have a vulnerability on them. But the fact that she's leaning in and not, again, walking away from these issues, I find very intriguing, very impressive, and really the right approach. She's got a great story there. Absent telling that story, it's being filled by Republican misinformation. The reality is that the Republicans walked away, this, from a bipartisan deal. It was a conservatives' wish list. The Biden-Harris administration had to take action, pass an executive order, border crossings down 40%. When she was focusing on root causes, she raised $5 to $10 billion from public-private partnerships, bringing folks to the table with equities from Japan to private corporations to invest in addressing those root causes, which has contributed to border crossings going down. So she's doing the right tactic, which is lean into the issue. Tell your story. If you don't tell the story, Republicans are going to tell it for you. And now we're seeing that this has become less of a sort of lightning rod for Democrats. This has become less of an effective messaging tool for Republicans because she's not shying away. She's actually leaning in. So I anticipate that she's going to continue to lean in. Can I just add one thing? I think what she should start to do, and hopefully she'll do this at the conventions, is broaden out how she talks about herself as a prosecutor. Not just prosecuting criminals like Donald Trump, but prosecuting big banks that are taking advantage of homeowners and greedy insurance companies. Start to frame her as the people's prosecutor, not just one that's going to go after criminals, but one who has a proven track record of taking on big business, private corporations that take advantage of the American people and the working class. I think she needs to expand her frame to become the people's prosecutor.
Just real quick on the border. They don't have a messaging problem on the border. They have a policy problem on the border. They've been in charge. They are currently in charge. And illegals are still flowing into the United States.
Some of the numbers have gone down.
Yeah, they're down 40%.
Relatively speaking, that's like saying inflation is down, but it's over time, it's 15 million
people. But here's the
people.
reality. The issue with the border didn't start with the issue with the border didn't start with Donald Trump. This is a perpetual problem for the United States. We need a level set with the American people. Where we are right now, the numbers of border crossings are less than where they were with Donald Trump.
But if she wants to run on tough on the border, she could do something right now. Her boss. Joe Biden can do it right now.
It has been done. That's why border crossings are down 40%, less than where they were with Donald Trump. So, the fact that...
We have to wrap it here.
Sure.
But we can come back.
No.
We can always have a running conversation.
See you in Chicago.
I will see you all in Chicago. It will be fun, and maybe we can all broker America's immigration debate over a hot dog full of all the Chicago specialties. Kevin Sheridan, Ashley Etienne, appreciate you stopping by. We'll have this conversation again, I'm sure, sometime soon.